Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Serene View. Hello, today I am really pleased to have gotten Mollie Jean De Dieu. I hope I pronounced that. Yes,
You said it
a
very
good friend. Thank you. A good friend, a wonderful person, mother of two. She's also the general manager of Longchamp and also the founder of Emotional Inclusion NGO. So, Molly, would you like to do just a quick introduction on yourself?
well. Thank you, firstly, for having me this morning on your show. It's such a pleasure to come on and speak on mental health and how it pertains to women specifically. And as you know, I'm a very much of an advocate in terms of mental health in the workforce. So I'm very happy to be with you today to speak up on the topic. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming, Molly. I really appreciate it. Well, just a few statistics on why we are talking about this, okay? Because this week, as we all know, is International Women's Day, and we have found some statistics on work and on women. Okay, so firstly, that women are leaving the workforce. 4.5 million women have left the workforce in just the USA alone in the last 1 year. In just the last 3 months, since September, 600,000 women have left. And if you compare that to men, only 78,000 men have left, which means 8 times more women are leaving the workforce. So you're wondering, like, why are these women all leaving the workforce? And the number one cited reason is mental health. Women are leaving the workforce to keep themselves sane, to be very bluntly. And
Yeah.
why is that? I mean, they did a couple of surveys and they found that 54% of women feel exhausted. This is among senior women leaders. 39% feel burnt out, and yet they still feel that they've got to do more work. Now, this is work at the workplace. If you compare this to work at home, twice as many men as women have increased the housework they do at home by 5 hours or more a day.
Uh,
Like, I don't know where they're finding that time, because as it is, on the baseline is that women do about 6 hours of housework a day compared to men who do about four. Yeah, we spend about 50% more time at housework. So women are doing more. They're doing about half the jobs at work. They're earning less, and yet they're doing more housework. So it's no wonder that women are getting burnt out, and it's no wonder that women are leaving the workforce as a result. So, why do you think? I mean, why do you think, Molly, that working in all these organizations makes such a big impact on the women's mental health?
well, I think there are a few points. One is that, for generally speaking, women are more likely to be the main carers for their children. And so we multitask so much more than just our day jobs, if you will. So just that adds an incredible amount of pressure on women. But what I've noticed is that women in the workforce also are more prone to put intense um, ideals for themselves, and put intense stress on themselves to perform and really earn their seat and at the table, if you will, within the work realm, and really, they put a lot of pressure in order to basically earn their rank at work. And so I think that accumulates that additional, that extra pressure that women put on themselves, accumulates over time, and definitely leads to more mental health issues. But what we also see is that when women find it hard to talk about difficult feelings, they internalize them, right? And it leads to problems such as depression, whereas men are more likely in general to act out their feelings or speak out on their issues than women are. So I think again, if we look at it in a nutshell, we are multitaskers because we, generally speaking, are the ones taking care of the kids and managing the organization, the home life, and then when we come to work, we've already put one job to the side and hopping on to a next, and there is still obviously a disparity in women CEOs or women leaders or women managers still today. We've made a tremendous amount of improvements, but we're still not there yet. We all know that women are still not earning the same salaries as men either, and so we women feel the need to really put in double effort to perform, and that is very heavy, and can lead to mental health issues. It leads to burnout. It leads to feeling stressed all the time, which obviously, is going to affect one's well-being over time.
I'm muted, yes. No, I actually completely agree with you because I realized that, you know, I feel as though I have a job at home and I have a job at work. I have one to do with the housework, I have one to do with the kids, and I have one to do, in my company. And so at the end of the day, whose responsibility do you think is this workplace mental health? I mean, is it just our fault because we're taking on too much? Do you think the organization should do something about it? HR, business leaders? I mean, what do you think?
I think hands down that leaders are really the ones who need to spearhead change. If the leader is not on board to discuss mental health issues, to advocate people to show up with their full selves at work, then the culture of the company will obviously not be infused with that thinking and that doing. And if the leader is not on board, the human resources are not going to be on board. So I think it's really important for leaders today to talk about mental health uh, in a way in which we would be talking about physical health, if you will. And to take away the stigma and to take away the shame that still revolves around it, and spearhead conversations by themselves, making by making themselves vulnerable. And of course, you can choose whatever it is that you want to say, but I think when you want your employees to feel comfortable to speak out when they are not okay, then you need to lead by example and show what that means. And I found that was, especially in the backdrop of COVID, uh, key, because especially I found in this part of the world, communication in and around feelings is a difficult and oftentimes taboo uh, topic, if you will. And so I really make an intent, I'm really intent as a leader myself to walk my talk. What's really interesting, Serene, is that statistically speaking, 58% of business leaders still find it hard in their position to speak up on mental health, right? And so this is where, by having conversations like these, and really putting the word out there that mental health is not a weakness. It's not being. It's not a sickness, if you will. It's not. It's not being unprofessional. It's just. It's just. We are. It's just you being a human being and going through. and navigating a difficult time in your life. And this is the school of life. We all go through difficult times. And if we really want to create cultures, work cultures, where we spearhead ambassadorship and retention and what I dub as adaptive resiliency, then we have to make ourselves vulnerable. We have to, as leaders, pave the way in destigmatizing the issue. And it is, more important than ever today in, again, in the backdrop of COVID, which has really put mental health under a magnifying glass.
And I think many leaders would probably agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, I think leaders are also strapped. Leaders are also, stretched. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people will be wondering, so what can organizations do to help us out? Because the fact is, no doubt it is the responsibility of the leaders. And actually, you're my second guest to say that. They've already said the same thing last week.
Yeah.
But can organizations do something to help us out as leaders?
Absolutely. And I think that this is where and why I founded the Emotional Inclusion NGO, because today, with this pandemic that we've all been navigating in our own ways and as best we can, leaders specifically are being asked to be like coaches. And let's face it, some are better at it than others. And at the end of the day, our role is not to fulfill that function. Our role is to, of course, care for the humanity of the individuals that we lead, but it's also to make sure that we get the targets of the company, that we meet the targets that the company has set out for itself, and that we really carry out the mission in the most impactful way. And so the NGO, the Emotional Inclusion NGO, calls on companies to invest in a trained therapist in-house in their organizations to oversee the emotional wellness of their employees, and to do that in a very sustainable way. Because, of course, therapists, so an in-house therapist, can truly, through, of course, their medical profession, really understand and / diagnose an employee when needed, but also through being in-house, they understand the culture of the company. They understand how the leader, what the leader expects. They understand what the politics of the company is. They they understand exactly what the KPIs of each and every employee's are, and so they can really help employees navigate their difficult times in the most in the most proactive way possible, not only for the individual going through a difficult time, but also for the company at large, to make sure that they are being as productive as they can be. The alarming statistics show that when one is going through navigating a depression, their cognitive skills are reduced by 20%. And so we really need to look at mental health in a serious light. And if we were to just park here for a second, the World Health Organization has come out with the fact that mental health costs the global economy today $5 trillion annually, and it may cost the world $22 trillion by 2030 if a collective, failure to respond to this problematic is not addressed. And so not only do we need to look at this on a societal level, but we really need to look at this more seriously on a corporate level, in order to tackle the issue. And I think that therapists really are the way. I think coaches are wonderful. I have nothing against coaches, but therapists are vowed to medical secrecy, and I think that that's a very important component, apart, of course, being able to diagnose as well, right? So they're vowed to medical secrecy. So when an employee comes to see them, right, whatever it is that they're navigating, that it be the loss of a child, the loss of a loved one, a divorce, an accident, whatever it might be, they know that that therapist, who also has a business hat on, can really help them in the most proactive way, but that their problem, their issue that they're navigating at that time, it will be kept within the realm of that secrecy drawer, if you will. And I think that that's really very important.
I think, probably the biggest concern a lot of a lot of employees have in companies is whatever that I say, will it end up in the ears of my boss, or will it end up on my performance appraisal? Will it affect my future career? Like, they will decide that I can't take stress and therefore I should not be promoted to a senior position. I think that's probably the number one concern about people going to see some of these things. But if we really think about it, I mean, if truly companies can implement this, emotional inclusion, do you think that there is a possibility that one day, workplaces can be a source of mental wellness? Because what happens now is for 40% women, for 40% of people, not just women, work is their number one source of stress. They cite that. I mean, and I think for most of us, work appear in our top 10, if not top 5. So do you think that with this emotional inclusion, it will one day be, a source of good things instead of a source of stress?
I do. And can I just say something? I think you're touching on I really the heart of the matter. I was just giving a talk at ESSEC Business School yesterday, and at the end of my talk, one of the students asked me, why is it that in schools we get to have counselors, but we don't get to have counselors when we enter the work realm? And I said to her, bingo. It's not about the yoga sessions. It's not about the, team building activities. It's not about the 24/7 hotlines to address mental health. It's about having someone be in-house and really tackle the matter seriously. And I do believe, Serene, and at least this is the mission and the purpose that that I have set out to accomplish, that is to be able to leave a corporate landscape for the next generations to come, where they can truly bring their full selves at work. Did you know that 50% of millennials and 75% of Gen Zers have left a job for mental health reasons? And that is very telling. The Gen Zers of today, the millennials of today, are all about the experience, right? And I think it's intrinsically linked to the fact that they perhaps grew up with the internet and social media, and they are so much more attuned to caring for the planet on a CSR level, but caring for one another, and the fact that we are really, I'd say, addressing it as a as a big bang now, and it's overdue. But the Me Too movements and the Black Lives Matter movements, I mean, it is enough, and I think that the generations to come, and the Gen Zers and the millennials, understand that, and they want to live in a life of purpose. And we find that on a business level too. If we do not cater to allowing them to have a genuine, authentic, purposeful experience at work, they're out the door.
I actually think so as well, because a lot of I mean, I'm Gen X, so a lot of my peers tell me that, oh, these millennials, they are, the strawberry generation and so on. But I actually think of it the other way around, which is, we had to go through all of that when we were kids, and we didn't enjoy it. I think I know so many of my friends who were kind of burnt out in their younger years. So why is it, that we need to inflict this on the next generation, right? Why is it that we cannot realize that this has been a problem, this has been a problem for a long time, and the next generation can be better? And so as individual leaders, I mean, what can I do to address this issue? I can hire, a therapist for myself or for my team. Is there anything I can do, in these aspects?
So what I like to say is that for companies that are not rolling out emotional inclusion yet, and by the way, there is a program in the making, and it will be rolled out within the next month. And the program is a trifold program, which offers, just in a nutshell, companies the ROI, the return on investment, and the metrics as to why to invest in an in-house therapist, and of course the job description of that therapist. And then it offers a pool of therapists that fit the criteria of that job description. So that's really the program that is being offered to companies within, or will be in the next month. But so if companies are not rolling out emotional inclusion in the workforce, then as leaders, it is, again, as we were saying earlier, their duty to really set the note and breed cultures of empathy, of compassion, of truly listening, to their employees. I want to say that it's important for us all to understand that for those of you listening today, this morning, a leader is not necessarily a general manager or CEO. Actually, when you look at the meaning of the word leader, it comes from the old English word leaden, which means to go before as a guide. And we all have that capacity to go before as a guide, to show the right example when it comes to mental health, right? And as women, to really rally together. And I'm not a feminist, but I have to say, we as women, we obviously, we're seeing the statistics show that we are more prone to mental health problems. But that there are also studies showcasing the fact that there haven't necessarily been enough in-depth studies on mental health with men. So I think that there is still a gap here to be seen, because I refuse to believe that that we are the ones living through mental health in a more severe way than men. I think men live it out in a different way, but they live it out. We're human beings. We have the same needs, but how we express our needs and our issues are done differently by sheer nature of our gender. So be the leader and be that guide, and live your life. If you're an intern in a company, or if you're an employee trying to make it up that corporate ladder to one day being a general manager or CEO, be that empathetic person who truly listens. And when you ask a question like, how are you, so often we skimp the answer, because the answers are always the same. They're always very superficial, if I may say. It's always the same answers. I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm okay, or I'm in a rush, or no, but how are you really? And if you're not getting an answer that is a worthy enough answer of really how that person is, then try sharing how you really are, and try making yourself be vulnerable. And vulnerability is really the birthplace of courage and of change. And if we don't allow ourselves to be humans at work, but humans in society, where we don't play a role because we are, fearful of judgment. We're fearful of, whatever, of judgment. Then we really won't make any purposeful advancements within the realm of mental health. And I think, again, as we were saying earlier, it's a huge issue. And when we're looking at Singapore, where we live, stress related illnesses cost the Singapore economy $2.3 billion a year, and we're not talking about this enough, right? And it's time. And so we are finally, addressing the issues with Me Too movement and Black Lives Matter movement. It's frankly overdue. But my movement is the emotional inclusion movement, and I really am very, very, very intent on making it be a part of what it means to be a human being. And you do not need to separate your work self from your home self when you open that front door to the office. You're a human being. Bring your full self at work. Bring your full self in life in general. It was a long-winded answer, but
No, but I agree that a lot of times, I mean, I just had this with a discussion with my coach, and I felt that one of the most important connections we can make is human to human, because oftentimes we are dealing with people as roles, right? I mean, leader and staff, even right now, right? Interviewer, interviewee. But really, is it possible for us to just connect human to human? Is it possible for us to just be be ourselves, be human? And I mean, we are on. Is that not for me? Okay, but I mean, we are on social media a lot, and there's a lot of window dressing where people only see the best part of you, right? And I really hope that we can bring all of ourselves, the good, the bad, or whatever, the ugly, to work and go like, okay, I'm not so good today, and have people rally around and really support us. Do you think such a vision will come true?
I do. I really do. I really do, because we're all living through something. And I think, if anything, COVID, if I look at the silver lining, if you will, of COVID, it has equalized us in a way in which we've all been living through something, right? And some of us can put our finger on it, and others can't, and that's okay. But it's allowed us to relook at our values, and relook at what it means to be a human being. And um, and I think we are understanding much more the fact that, if we do not address it, if we do not address mental health, it's going to cost the world, corporations and governments alike, $22 trillion, as I mentioned earlier, by 2030. I mean, this is real. And I think people are craving the need for authenticity, although I don't like that word because it's overused, but realness. And so I think we are coming around to it. And as I like to say, emotional intelligence, so capital E, capital I, is all about the knowing, right? But emotional inclusion, capital E, lowercase I, is all about the doing. And this is our responsibility today, Serene, all of our responsibility. All of us are in this together to make this a movement where we no longer accept to have a stigma attached to mental health. Mental health should be spoken about like physical health, as we work on our bodies and train our muscles to be stronger and fitter, as we, talk about what foods to eat in order to nourish our bodies and to be at the most optimum health possible, right? Mental health is the same thing. How do you exercise your mind, and how do you train your mind to be the absolute best version of yourself?
Thank you very much. Thank you for today. I think we've really learned a lot from you. I find it very heartening that there are leaders like yourself who are empathetic, who are reaching out to their staff, and who are trying to change the landscape, not just for us, but definitely for the millennials and for those who come after them. So we've come to the end of the half hour. Is there one last thing that you want to leave us with before we end the session?
Well, firstly, thank you so much, Serene, for having me on the show. I very much enjoy the conversation building up to today and this morning. So it's been a real pleasure being on the show. Thank you. I think that the last message I would like to give to all is to just be who you are and unafraid of showing up with vulnerability, empathy, compassion, and just watch how that has, how that creates ripple effects in your life, and how that truly affects your life, even on a corporate level, at work, and how it really profits your overall happiness, your overall bottom line in the workforce, and how it just brings you a much richer life. And I think we can all agree that life is too short not to live it with an anchored sense of purpose. And if you can make part of that purpose be of destigmatizing mental health, as we've all, and I hope we've all been partaking in the Me Too movements and the Black Lives Matter movements, I call upon all of you to really take a stand here, because it's really very important for all of us and for our world in general.
Thank you very much, Mollie. Thank you so much. And I hope those of you who are listening to this, that this will truly be our vision for us to go forward, to make the workplace a great place for our mental well-being, for us to be who we are and connect human to human. Thank you so much for this conversation. And for those of you who are joining me next week, I will be speaking to Paul Dunn, who is the founder of G1, one of the biggest social business in the world, and he will be talking about what they are doing to push mental health in the various causes that they have around the world. So thank you very much, Mollie. Thanks for your time. And for those who want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Sure. So they can find me at Emotional Inclusion on Instagram. They can find me on LinkedIn. So on Instagram, it's emotional_inclusion. On LinkedIn, it's emotional inclusion, or at Mollie Jean De Dieu. Yeah, on those two platforms. Or on my website at www.emotionalinclusion.com.
Yes. All right. So thank you very much. And we'll see you
Thanks,
again the
Marie.
next time. Thank you so much. See ya. Bye.
Thanks. Take care.
Take care.